Okay, so thank you all for joining for the Rise demo. Before we jump in, you should all be seeing my screen now. Before we jump in, I'm going to just really quickly review why we built Rise before I jump into the functionality. So basically, Rise is what we like to call Rise is a fitness app for your work. So what does that mean? It basically means it's a way to show you with data how you are spending your time and help you work more efficiently and more productively. So that can mean, and also more healthy. So like that's a big part of Rise is helping you work more healthy, because we believe that in the long run, working more healthy is actually the solution to working more productively. So, at its core, Rise is a time tracker, which I'll get into, a little bit after this. That's its base. But we also have a ton of productivity features that help you get more focus time, take more breaks, avoid overworking, all in the goal of just showing you where your time is spent so you can work more efficiently and continue to get things done, while at the same time, having more free time to spend with your family and friends and do things outside of work. Okay, so having said that, you should all be seeing my home dashboard here. I'm going to start demoing this. This is the main dashboard. This is the main view that you should be really using day to day in Rise. The home tab. It's going to show you most of the functionality is going to be in this tab, and that's the main one I'm going to be reviewing today. And it does a good job of showcasing the major features and functionality. So starting on the very left side, you'll see this biggest column here. This is your activity. And so this is sort of the base, the foundation of the entire app. So as I mentioned, Rise is at its core just a time tracker. And right now it's just for computers only, although mobile is on the roadmap. And so how Rise works is it just automatically tracks on your computer what apps and websites you're using. And then Rise will categorize each of those apps and websites into specific categories. So Gmail will be email, Google Docs will be documenting, Twitter would be social media, right? And those categories and that categorization is really important, because that's the foundation that all these other metrics like sessions and work hours and break time, they're all going to be built off of those categories. And so as you can see, when you first look at the activity tab, you'll see these purple blocks. That's when you were active on the computer. Rise is going to also show you the top few categories in each work block. So, from 11:45 to 12:15, I was in customer support primarily. But then if I hover, I can see all the top 5 categories there, and then the top 5 apps and websites. There was a code block in the afternoon, and I was doing more customer support and email. And you can hover over each of these to get a better idea, right? Like a snapshot of that time block. I can also click and view details if I want to see all of the apps and websites that I was active in during that time. If I click view details, I'll see them all right here. And so because categorization is so important, that's the area that I like to cover first in these demos, because it's really important to get your categories right. So Rise does come with a lot of predefined rules for categorization, but we don't have every app or website categorized already. And you might, even if we do have it categorized, you might still need to tweak it to better fit your role or your use case. So I'm going to jump over to the categories tab, because this is also a very important tab. So here you're going to see two sections: your time spent by the day by categories, as well as the time spent by apps and websites. I can click onto one of these and it should highlight in the timeline when I was active in that category or in that app and website. And then if I want to see which apps or websites I was using for that specific category, I can click this little pencil icon, and you can see it's just updating, but you can see basically the list of apps and websites that are categorized as customer support here. If I want to recategorize one of those, so at the top level, you'll see, Help Scout or loom.com. If I want to recategorize one of those, I can click on the category and I'll see the categorization modal. So you can see time spent in secure.help.com. That's our customer support website. I can click in here. I can create a new category, by just typing in, the new category name and hitting enter. Or I can select from an existing category. I can also select to exclude from tracking too. Then after that, I'll be presented with two options. I can change and create a rule moving forward. What that means is when let's say I want to change this to administrative, right? If I select change and create a rule moving forward, that means Rize is going to change all of my time in secure.helpscout.net for today or whatever time range I'm looking at, and create a rule moving forward so that any new time that comes in spent with on Help Scout will be categorized as administrative. If I change for this time period only, that's sort of saying just override whatever is existing is set as secure.helpscout.net for this time period only. But any new events that come in will be categorized by the original customer support category. You can do that with, apps and websites as well. If I want to go to, let's say, productivity, it'll show me like the Rize app. I can change that as, again, or for all time spent in app. It's the same as URL. That's the basis of categorization. It's really simple, but one of the kind of powerful, unique aspects about Rize is it can get, you can not only get fully customizable in the categories you use, you can also get fully customizable you can get very granular in your categorization rules. I'm not going to actually dive too deeply in this right now. They're more advanced features, but if you want to do this, you can click on the little arrow and Rize will show you all the time broken down by URL and by title for that app or website. URL if it's a URL and we can find it. Otherwise, it's just going to be the title. And if I want to categorize one of these, I can click on it and you can see, tax on invoice. This is the URL. I can now I have the option to change based on the title, based on the URL. And I can match that URL exactly or match that URL partially. So again, like if I just add like tax, I could create a rule that says time spent in Help Scout with tax in the keyword changed to administrative or whatever. So again, that's more of an advanced feature. We don't usually recommend doing that, when you first start using the app, only unless you really need to, but it is there because we can get super, super granular. When it comes to categorization, again, this is really probably the most important thing that you can do. We recommend, when you first start using Rize, just checking it throughout the day or maybe spending 2 or 3 minutes at the end of your day and reviewing your categories. There are two special categories that I want to call out. The first one is miscellaneous. So if Rize does not have an existing category for an app or website, it starts as miscellaneous. However, anything in miscellaneous, we just recommend you don't need to categorize. You're not spending enough time to have to categorize everything in that category. Once you spend a certain amount of time in an app or website that is categorized as miscellaneous, like around 10 minutes in a day, Rize will automatically recategorize that as uncategorized. And we recommend anything in uncategorized, you should spend the time to recategorize. The good thing is normally the first few days, you'll see a few of those uncategorized pop up, categorize them. But after you get sort of set up and your base categories categorized, apps and websites categorized, you won't really see categorization or uncategorized very much. I mean, I see it now like once a month, maybe. So it's just about getting that initial configuration set up. Okay, so that's the basis for categorization. The next column over here, and categorization is like, again, probably the foundational configuration that you need to set up. The next column over here is projects. So projects are essentially work output. Some people get a little confused on whether it should be a category or a project. It's more of an art than a science, but this is a general rule that you can apply. If it has an end date, it's a project. If it doesn't have an end date, if an end date doesn't make sense in that context, it's a category. So great examples like email, right? Email never has an end date. It's a type of work. That means it should be a category. But if you're working on feature X or you're working for client Y, those are all things that have specific end dates, and those would be projects. So projects are basically allow you to tag things across different categories and time periods. You can see one project today was bug fixes and improvements. If I hover over that, I can see the breakdown. If I click, I can view the details of the project and it will show me some fun histograms here, as well as the breakdown. I can even export that to a PDF if I want to share it with a client. I'll jump quickly over to the projects tab. I'm not going to go too deep in projects right now, but if you want to cover it in a bit, let me know. I mean, this is the projects tab. You can click on any one of these to get back to that timeline view. You can click new project here, or you can click the arrow and you can create a new client or a new task. If I click new project, you'll see I can enter the name. I can enter a budget on a weekly, monthly, or total sense to see how much time I'm spending on that project on a rolling basis. The other really important feature here is keywords. So projects right now, you can manually tag them on the home timeline by dragging and dropping, but you can also have Rize automatically tag blocks of time to projects by adding keywords here. So like if I'm working on, a project for feature Y, I can add that as a keyword. And then if Rize sees enough of that keyword in window titles for a period of time, it will tag that whole block of time towards that project automatically. So that's a cool feature that really ties into the automation of Rize, because Rize is, at the end of the day, we want to be as fully automated or as close to it as we can. There's also some timelines here, a lot of other cool stuff you can do with projects, but that's it at a high level. Again, if you want to tag time to project, you can just drag and drop, click add project. You can select the project from the timeline, select the project from the timeline, or create a new project. You can also click on one of these blocks if you want to line the project up exactly with that time block, and click add to project and select from, the drop down. I can click on it to remove the project as well. And it's really simple. There's also the plus sign at the top. Okay, so that's projects at a high level. Moving one more over to sessions. Sessions are also a really, really unique value prop of Rize. Basically, sessions are where Rize detects you're either focused, taking a break, or in a meeting. And sessions are sort of roughly based on Cal Newport's workbook called Deep Work. And so sessions are cool because each of them can be created automatically based on your activity or manually through the timer, which I'll show in a bit. The most important thing to get configured rightly is your focus sessions. So part of the reason categories are so important is because every category is going to be counted as a focus or a non-focus category. And so Rize will auto detect if you're focused. We actually have a pretty advanced algorithm, but at its core, it's basically looking how much time you're spending in focus categories versus how much time you're not. And if you spend enough time in focus categories, Rize will automatically create a focus session. I can then hover over that session to see a lot of really cool things like a focus quality score. I can see the top interrupters. I can see what categories I was spending. If I click and view session, there's also a bunch of other stats. I'll see first the categories when it was in. I can rate the session and then see all these cool metrics about, number of interruptions and top interrupters. But when you're in a focus session as well, Rize will send you a little ping if you start looking at an app or website that's not categorized as a focus category. That can be annoying if the focus categories aren't configured correctly. So if you see time that you spend on the computer that you feel like should be focused and it's not a focus session, you need to tweak your focus categories. You can do that by heading to settings and scrolling down to this section called exclude from focus time. These are your non-focus categories. So, you can just remove any of these categories from this list if you feel like they should be in focus, or you can recategorize something that's, Rize is considering a non-focus or interrupter when in reality it's not. For example, maybe you use Twitter for outreach, and so Rize is reminding you to focus when, Twitter is actually a focus category. That's just an example. Rize has similar behavior with meetings and with breaks. For meetings, it's pretty simple. Rize will basically look at your integrated calendar and create a meeting for any calendar event with 2+ confirmed attendees that you've confirmed. And for breaks, Rize will automatically detect breaks when your computer goes idle or if you put it to sleep, and then you come back between 5 minutes and an hour. Again, these can get a little more advanced, and I can also talk about some of the advanced features with integrating your calendar and how you can create sessions that way. But I'll do that if we want to dive in a little bit later. I just want to give an overview now. Before I move on to the last summary card, I just want to call out the timer quickly. So you can see I'm in a meeting now, but this is the timer, session timer. It's sort of a cool add-on feature. You don't need to use a timer if you don't want. But again, if you wanted to manually start a focus session, you can click start focus. You can enter a goal. You can add project tags. You can set the duration. You can even choose cool focus music. So there's a lot of cool fun stuff you can do there as well. Similarly for a break or for a meeting. Okay, coming back to the home page, and I'm almost done. This is your daily summary. So here you'll see just a high level of all your stats. The most important stat that's super important is your work hours. This is just showing you how much you work each day. This was one of the reasons my co-founder and I actually built Rise in the first place is, we had no idea how much time we're spending working each day. Work hours is essentially, it's going to be all the time spent in work categories plus your break time. So work categories are similar to focus categories in the sense that, you can go in here, see which categories are considered not work, add or edit them here. Work hours is a little more advanced than just that, but it's at its core, it's mostly just adding up your time spent in work categories plus break time. That's basically everything at a high level. We do have this bar at the bottom here where you can track, you can edit your music settings and our support chat. The only other tab that I have, the other two tabs I haven't dove into too deeply is your productivity tab, which shows some high level metrics around focus and meetings and breaks that you might be interested in. We also have a goals tab that you can set specific goals and time targets. So yeah, this productivity tab is actually, there's a lot of changes in the pipeline for this. We want this to be more of an area, almost like a coaching area, but that's coming in the works. And then last, but you can see some sort of cool stats in the meantime. The last thing I'll cover is there's this command bar. You can click on it. You can also get this by pressing Command K or Control K. And there's a lot of cool keyboard shortcuts you can do, like start focus session, start break, quick start breaks, stuff like that. So Command K to bring that up and you can type and explore there. And the last thing is support. So we have video tutorials. Video tutorials, we have a user guide. Those are both going to be updated soon. We have a pretty active Discord community and an active change log. And then if you have any questions, you can always reach out on the chat box, which is in that bottom right corner, or email support. We're always happy to give demos or hop on a call, whatever it might be. Okay, and so that is the high level overview. I'm gonna stop the recording now, and then we can jump into any questions or deep dive in anything specific.